Developing right now on Morning News Now, turbulence ahead for millions of travelers just as the holiday season begins. Federal officials announcing a 10% cut in flights starting tomorrow at dozens of the nation's busiest airports. This as the longest government shutdown in history drags on into day 37.
I anticipate there will be additional disruptions. There will be frustration.
As we continue to see staffing triggers, there will be additional measures that will be taken.
We'll have an update on the shutdown standoff, the growing fallout, and what it all means for you. Also this morning, it's back to business for President Trump, shaking off the Democratic sweep from Tuesday's election. It comes as the Supreme Court casts doubt on the legality of the president's sweeping tariffs. We'll have a look at the case that could have consequences worldwide. Plus, state of labor with the shutdown causing a delay in the monthly employment data. A private sector jobs report is shining a light on the state of the nation's economy. We'll break down the numbers and what you need to know if you are looking for work. And do not recommend business owners sounding the alarm on fake one-star reviews popping up online, sometimes by the dozen. We'll scroll through to find out who's behind them, plus how to spot what's real and what's not. Are you a review reader before you buy or eat somewhere?
I will look, but I try not to put too much into it.
Yeah.
At least read the comments. How about you?
I'm not, but we have some stats that like 98% of people are. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess I should be looking at that more.
Powerful thing. We'll
Yeah.
see if you can figure out what's real and what's not. Good to have you with us this morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to begin this morning with a major warning that could impact air travel this weekend and beyond. Officials from the Trump administration say they are going to start cutting air traffic at dozens of the nation's busiest airports starting tomorrow.
If you thought traveling was unpredictable now, well, just wait. This move could prompt airlines to cut thousands of flights on short notice as the holiday travel rush starts to ramp up. Officials say it's necessary to relieve pressure on air traffic controllers and to keep people safe amid rising staffing shortages connected to this government shutdown, now on day 37.
I think it's going to lead to more cancellations. I'm concerned about disrupting people's travel. We're coming into a weekend. We are concerned about that. But we had to have a gut check of what is our job. Is it to make sure there's, minimal delays or minimal cancellations, or is our job to make sure we make the hard decisions to continue to keep the airspace safe?
Well, Congress still has not reached a deal to end the stalemate over government funding. Some senators do see signs of progress in the bipartisan talks that are happening behind closed doors. For more, let's bring in NBC News politics reporter Megan Leibowitz. So, Megan, what more do we know about these potential flight cuts by the FAA? Is this a move by the Trump administration to maybe try and back Democrats into a political corner here?
Hey guys, yeah, so Transportation Secretary John Duffy laid this out yesterday. He said that there would ultimately be a 10% reduction in capacity in some of these high traffic areas across 40 different locations. Now, we don't know exactly yet which locations those are ultimately going to be. He did not announce that yesterday. We're expecting to get a list of those locations soon. But like you mentioned, guys, this comes just a couple of weeks before the busiest travel period as we're getting into the Thanksgiving holiday season coming up here, guys. Now, we're hearing from some sources, too, that it could potentially ramp up to that 10%, starting with a 4% reduction in capacity starting tomorrow, 5% on Saturday, moving all the way up to 10% next week. Now, as you mentioned, guys, this comes as we are in a record-long government shutdown and federal workers are still not getting paid. That includes TSA agents, air traffic control staffers. And so airports are starting to report some staffing shortages as well. And that's why they're explaining that this is actually happening here, guys.
Megan, sorry, this is a weird, technical TV thing, but if you wouldn't mind just moving your hair a little bit off your mic because we can hear
Absolutely.
making that noise. We asked this question yesterday, and I'm just wondering if anything has sort of changed in the last 24 hours with where Democrats stand when it comes to ending the shutdown. Are they feeling more emboldened maybe to keep this fight going after Tuesday's elections, or do they see those wins as an off-ramp potentially?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are some Democratic senators that are starting to express some optimism here, that they're saying that there could potentially be some progress moving forward. There was a small bipartisan group of senators who met on Monday to talk about trying to potentially break this impasse moving forward. Now, as you mentioned, lawmakers are also trying to consider what Tuesday's elections actually could mean for moving forward past this government shutdown. So Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, he's a Democrat. that. Now, he's voted with Republicans on this continuing resolution to reopen the government on a short-term basis. He expressed some optimism about what the elections mean for lawmakers trying to find a path forward. But on the other side of the aisle, we have a senator like Senator Ron Johnson, a Republican of Wisconsin, who expressed some concerns about what Tuesday's election means for Democrats potentially wanting to stick with their positions and being less likely to find a way to reopen the government. Take a listen to what both of them had to say.
You know, we've had the election. Now we can all reopen and now find a way forward now.
I'm afraid the Democrats have been emboldened by the election yesterday. That's what we're hearing. I thought maybe if they had success, okay, good, you did the shutdown to your benefit this election, now let's open it up. I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Now, remember, guys, that this continuing resolution, even if lawmakers were ultimately going to pass it, it would only keep the government funded through November 21st. So lawmakers would eventually have to come back and try to extend that funding even further, as we're already coming up toward the end of the month pretty closely here, guys.
And as we follow all of this, of course, there's a major human impact here with federal food aid programs. We know President Trump and Trump officials were in court again yesterday after a federal judge ordered the administration to use emergency funds to pay for SNAP benefits. Those ran out of funding this last weekend. Where do things stand with these benefits, and what can families in need, when could they maybe expect to see money?
Yeah, so an agriculture department official told the court yesterday that the administration is now going to be able to fund about 65% of these SNAP benefits for November. They previously said that they would only be able to fund about 50% of those SNAP benefits. Now, this all comes after a judge ordered the administration to use these contingency funds to at least partially pay these SNAP benefits. But as for when those funds could actually come through, there's still a really big question mark by that. I want to point you to what Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins said this week. She said in a post to X that it could take several weeks for these partial payments to actually come through. Now, in the meantime here, state governments are stepping in. There have been several states that have declared emergency declarations, pouring government funds, state government funds into food banks to try to close this gap. Some are even mobilizing state National Guard troops to try to help with distributing food to some of these people who are not getting these SNAP benefits as they lapsed at the beginning of this month, guys.
All right, Megan Leibowitz kicking us off this hour. Thank you so much.
Well, President Trump is back in Washington this morning after delivering a speech touting what he sees as his economic successes to business leaders in Miami on Wednesday.
His remarks came one day after Democrats swept key races across the country in what some saw as a rebuke of the Trump administration. Exit poll data from voters shows deep concerns about the state of the economy and the cost of living. In his remarks, Mr. Trump is painting a different picture.
We have the greatest economy right now. A lot of people don't see that. But if you look at what's happening with all the factories, AI, auto plants all over the country being built, that if you would have thought about that 2 or 3 years ago, you would have said it was the opposite. They were all leaving. Now they're all coming in. They're all coming back and then some. This is the golden age of America. This is the golden age.
NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now with more. Monica, good morning. So after Democrats came out victorious in these major races on Tuesday night, President Trump, in a few different ways here, has sort of tried to distance himself from the results on social media. He cited pollsters saying that Republicans lost because of the government shutdown and because he wasn't on the ballot. A day later, how is the White House handling this political fallout?
Yeah, and I thought it was really notable, guys, that the president did concede that the government shutdown was having an impact and that he was sort of almost questioning the strategy that Republicans have used so far. But at the same time, there's also this disconnect between what the president is saying about the economy and the fact that when you poll Americans, the number one issue across the board that you continue to see is this question of affordability. So the president is talking about this in one way, and people say that they are feeling this in a completely different way. And if that sounds familiar, that's because that's what we were talking about a year ago in the 2024 election leading up to that and to the defeat of Kamala Harris. And before that, President Joe Biden when he was running, because they were similarly saying that things are getting much better. Let's look at the improving signs, while people themselves were saying it just doesn't feel like that. So we're in a really interesting moment here where the White House continues to defend, they say, what they're doing. They're pointing to energy prices. They're pointing to gas prices. But again, when you actually ask people, they talk about cost of housing, they talk about their groceries and other factors that simply just don't match up. And I think that was a big takeaway from the election results. But clearly, there is some introspection, there is some reflection from the president here in terms of those takeaways and now what they're going to do. And according to the White House, they say he's going to talk about affordability and cost of living a lot more in the next year leading up to the midterms.
So, Monica, speaking to senators on Wednesday, President Trump pressed them again to get rid of the filibuster so Republicans can just end the shutdown on their own without Democratic help. Obviously, that is a slippery slope. We know Republicans are reluctant because they could not be in power come down the road. Is anyone in the Republican Party convinced this is a good idea right now?
There are a couple Republican senators who are sort of looking at this now and saying, well, if we're not going to have any other option, is that something that we have to consider? But when you talk to the actual Republican leadership, when you talk to Majority Leader John Thune, he says there simply aren't enough votes to do this. There isn't enough of an appetite. You would really need a higher number of Republicans. And the irony there is you would need more Republicans to agree to doing that, to reopen the government, than you would need the number of Democrats for the current route that they had been pursuing. They need to peel off 5 potentially more moderate Democrats who would join Republicans in voting for the measure to just reopen the government with that continuing resolution and then having the negotiations after that about a larger plan and a larger budget. So again, they're saying, why don't we stick to that strategy, even though it hasn't worked so far? And clearly the pressure is continuing to be felt because of what you were just discussing with the airlines and some of those impacts. So is it an issue now where both parties maybe start to question their strategy a little bit and think about alternatives? The president is clearly pushing the filibuster, but it doesn't seem right now that's something that's going to happen for the exact reason you laid out, because of what would happen if Democrats ultimately were in power.
Monica, also while we have you, we're learning new details about a deal by the Trump administration that would lower the price of those weight loss drugs. And that's according to 2 people familiar with the plan. Obviously important to a lot of Americans here. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, so this looks to be an announcement that the president is expected, we believe, to make as early as today with the makers of those drugs like Wegovy and Zepbound. So with the drug makers Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, to essentially have Medicare cover some of the costs of what are sometimes pretty expensive drugs. It would bring the price down for some of those to about $149 to some people who would be eligible for that. But we don't have the exact details of how that would work and exactly how this plan is going to be announced by the Trump administration. But you remember, guys, in the last couple of weeks and months, they've been making similar announcements and deals with drug makers like Pfizer and AstraZeneca on other drugs. And so this fits in that pattern where the president is trying to really drive lower prescription drug costs. And we hope to hear more about that today.
All right, Monica Alba, thank you very much.
President Trump's tariffs appear to be in jeopardy this morning. Several Supreme Court justices, including some conservatives, expressed skepticism over his authority to impose them. During oral arguments in the case yesterday, a top lawyer for the Trump administration was pressed by justices across the spectrum. They questioned how the president's tariffs on nearly all U.S. trading partners in the last year is justified.
So this is a little wonky, but the central question in this case concerns a 1977 law. It's called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and it allows the White House to regulate imports when there is a, quote, unusual and extraordinary threat. The Trump administration argues that this law grants the president the power to issue these tariffs that are central to his economic policy. But justices suggested yesterday that his interpretation that law may be exceeding his authority.
NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris and NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung are here for analysis on this and what it could mean for businesses and for consumers. Good morning to both of you. Misty, let's start with you. So this 1977 law does not explicitly say anything about imposing tariffs. Obviously, the Trump administration trying to make that argument yesterday. How'd they do?
Well, so I think there was a lot of skepticism coming from the judges, and this was not along the typical ideological or political lines. But at the heart of this case, we heard 2 major arguments about the non-delegation clause of the Constitution, as well as the major questions doctrine. So this is about whether or not Congress, who really holds the power to tariff, according to Article 2 of the Constitution, delegated power to the president through that statute, which we call IEPA, based on the language of the statute, which the Trump administration says, there's the statute, it's plain and simple. Whereas the opposition say that this statute says nothing about tariffs. So this is an overreach of the power. And I would say that the questioning from some of the conservative judges should give the administration just a little bit of heartburn going into the decision.
You just said something that was mentioned quite a bit yesterday, that major questions doctrine. What does that mean? What does it mean based on how the Supreme Court decides here for the future of the power of the presidency?
So the major questions doctrine is critical here. And looking at the history of it, it was actually developed by the conservative court in 2022. And what it says is that if Congress meant to give the president or the executive branch a power, they would have said so explicitly in a statute. So if in this case, the statute is read to encompass the tariffs, which are not explicitly set forth in the statute, that would really significantly expand executive power. So that's why the major questions doctrine is an issue here. Number one, we're looking at a conservative court who created the doctrine, used it quite a bit to limit what Biden can do. And now are they going to use it in the same way in this particular case?
Brian, let's bring you in to talk about the heartburn. If the Supreme Court rules against the Trump administration here, I have to imagine there will be a lot of businesses around the country that say, we want our money back. So how much money are we talking about here? Do we have any idea how this refund system would even begin to work?
Yeah, well, I mean, the government has stats on exactly how much they've collected through these country-specific tariffs, and the estimate is closer to $90 billion. So the implication here, which we've heard from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, saying that in the event the Supreme Court, if they were to strike down these international tariffs, well, then they would have to refund all of that money. Where would that money go back to? To the American companies that are largely paying these tariffs. Because again, as a reminder, it is the importing company that has to pay these costs when you levy a 50% tariff on Brazil, X% tariff on Indonesia. It's the companies that are importing them into the United States through, let's say, the Port of Los Angeles that then has to pay that. I want to point out what we're talking about here with the Supreme Court doesn't cover all of the tariffs that we've been talking about on the show. These are the country-specific ones that are at issue here, like those, say, on Indonesia, on Brazil, on China. What we are not talking about are industry-specific tariffs. So things on, let's say, for example, steel, timber, lumber, as well as the automotive industry. Those are all imposed under separate authorities, which the Supreme Court is not litigating here. So it's not that all tariffs would go away, even if there were to be a decision striking against the administration.
I mean, that sounds like a total mess.
Yeah.
Is there can you shed any light on how you even see that being feasible?
Well, see, here's the thing is that there's also a lot of these other, let's say, levers, if you want to say, that the administration could pull in the event that these get struck down, which would basically allow them to impose the tariffs in another way. Mm-hmm. One of these options is a 1974 law, which would allow the president to, for 150 days, up to 15%. So it would be more limited than the types of tariffs that he's imposed on these countries around the world. But he could use that if these tariffs are struck down. So it's almost this whack-a-mole game, if you will, of these different tariffs popping up, the administration turning to different legal avenues, different types of laws that we've not really seen opened up in decades, in over 50 years, to try to get these tariffs in place. So again, this is far from the end of this tariff story.
Misty, it could be a few months before we get the final decision here by the court, though hopefully before June, since this is expedited. Which justices are you keeping an eye on as the keys that could swing this?
I mean, I am looking at Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett, and Roberts. I think Gorsuch was really on the side of the challengers, which is, it's going to be a unique pool at the end of the day. Right. Whereas Kavanaugh really seemed to be on board with the administration's argument. I think it's Barrett and Roberts. Those are the ones to watch. That's what's going to swing this one way or the other.
Wow, fascinating.
Misty and Brian breaking it down for us. We appreciate it. Thank you both.
Thank you both. Well, the National Transportation Safety Board investigators are starting to get a clearer picture of what may have caused that horrific plane crash in Louisville earlier this week. At least 12 people have died and more than a dozen others were injured after that UPS cargo plane crashed just at the end of the runway Tuesday night. And this morning, investigators say they've already recovered critical clues into what happened in the flight's final moments. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has the latest from the crash site.
NTSB investigators are looking closely at the tremendous amounts of video and photographic evidence of the final moments of UPS Flight 2976.
Believed to be a plane crash huge fire and smoke.
This video already proving to be critical evidence, appearing to show the plane's left wing or engine already on fire as the MD-11 barreled down the runway on its takeoff roll. Investigators say the cargo jet, fully loaded with fuel, managed to clear the fence at the end of the runway, but quickly banked to the right and slammed to the ground, hitting several businesses, including an auto parts company with employees and customers inside.
There was literally fire and flames around them, and they got out safely. We had other employees that escaped out through back windows.
The massive explosion sent flames, debris, and giant clouds of black smoke into the air. The debris field spread over half a mile.
What this scene is violent. Where the plane hit, at best, is destroyed. What you see are mangled remnants of what was in its path.
Investigators have already recovered the plane's left engine found between two runways. Airport CCTV captured the moment that engine came off the wing. NTSB board member Todd Inman.
It gives us a much better picture of what was happening before you start to see the fire and before the detachment actually occurs.
Investigators have also found the plane's cockpit voice and flight data recorders, the black boxes, in the smoldering wreckage.
While the fire may have been intense, it is built to withstand that.
The death toll stands at 12, including a child on the ground.
We've seen burns. We've seen blast injuries from the explosion itself.
The 3 pilots on board did not survive. The airport is partially open as the NTSB scours the field for evidence.
The UPS Worldport here in Louisville is UPS's largest, handling 2 million packages a day. Those operations were suspended, ships told not to come to work. As UPS deals with this emergency, that means certain medications, business deliveries, online shopping shipments could be affected. Back to you.
Tom, thank you.
There are new developments in the urgent search out west for a missing 9-year-old girl. Officials say Melody Buzzard hasn't been seen in nearly a month. Investigators are now zeroing in on surveillance images that appear to show her wearing a wig to change her appearance during a recent road trip with her mom. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson has the new details.
Investigators piecing together a scattered puzzle, now spread out over several states, hoping it leads to the safe return of 9-year-old Melody Buzzard.
We're getting closer and closer to figuring out where Melody is.
Buzzard, last seen during a road trip with her mother nearly a month ago. Officials say this image shows mom Ashley Buzzard and her daughter in disguise, both appearing to be wearing wigs days before her school reported her missing. Authorities describing Ashley as a key person in the investigation, not a suspect, adding she's not cooperating.
At this point, Ashley has not been able to provide us with a plausible explanation as to where Melody is. Or where Melody was.
Detectives confirmed Ashley Buzzard left California with her daughter on October 7th, driving a white Chevy Malibu as far as Nebraska. On October 8th, authorities say the car's license plate was switched from California to New York to avoid detection. Melody was last seen on October 9th when surveillance video captured her near the Utah-Colorado border. The following day, Ashley used this route to drive home to California, arriving with no sign of her daughter.
We think that somebody might have taken notice of a child wearing a wig or a child wearing a wig with a hood pulled up, because it's not something that you see every day.
Our thanks to Steve Patterson for that report. The FBI tells NBC News it's casting a wide net, reaching out to the public for help in all those states where Melody and her mother were seen on that road trip.
Let's get you weather now. The Pacific Northwest is continuing to experience heavy rains, now even possibly some snow. We've got more with the Morning News Now forecast.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us with that forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning. More of the same, essentially, for our friends out in the Pacific Northwest. That's where we're still seeing the heavy rain, the snow, the gusty winds, all of that again on the table. You can see we're ramping it up this morning with some of those showers and more of that moisture to come here as this atmospheric river kind of brings more rain and wind to this same region. We'll see the potential for some isolated flooding, maybe near those burn scar areas. That's going to be the most vulnerable spots as we get through the day today and potentially into tomorrow. You can see much of that system working inland, and that's where we'll get some of that snow for parts of the northern Rockies. Meanwhile, it sure is windy in the Northeast. We saw pretty extreme gusts into the overnight hours, likely seeing some isolated power outages, possibly still some travel delays today. You can see even this morning, 20, 30 plus mile per hour winds, not quite as gusty as it was yesterday, but still the breezy conditions will remain through the day today. Then we turn our attention to this next storm system. It's going to bring us some rain from the Great Lakes all the way to the Appalachians. We'll see just a pocket of the Tennessee Valley gearing up for some stronger storms for tomorrow. And then most of that arrives to parts of the Northeast here as we get later into the day. Meanwhile, it is still feeling quite warm across much of the middle of the country. That warm air is being dragged in from the Gulf of Mexico. We've got a high pressure sitting just to the southeast, and that means ushering in this warm air and leaving our temperatures well above normal. So 70s, 80s across parts of the plains, even as far north as Rapid City, we're running more than 15 degrees above normal for today. And more of the same for tomorrow. Much of that spreads to the east, 70s for Charleston, Atlanta. Chicago will check in at 63 degrees. And if you're looking ahead to Saturday, again, still mild. It's been kind of this roller coaster ride for some of the northern tiers of this region where we feel like fall and then we feel a little warmer than we should. 66 for Saturday in New York City, low 70s for Washington, D.C., Norfolk. We end up into the mid 70s for Raleigh. But then we've got a wintry whiplash. So if you're looking for the chillier air, you will get it here as we wrap up our weekend. We're going to have this developing storm system across parts of the Midwest. And that means that we've got all of this cold air ushering in from the Arctic. That's going to really drop our temperatures. So notice by Sunday, we've got just the 30s in Chicago. We've got 40s for Detroit. Even as far south as Nashville, we'll end up just into the low 50s. So we're going from above normal temperatures over the next couple of days across these regions to really below normal temperatures in a matter of just a couple of days. And even the southeast will get in on this action, guys. This is going to be our first real dip of temperatures across that region. 50s for Panama City, Jacksonville, low 60s. We know they'll break out their Uggs, their parkas there. But in all seriousness, it is going to be a chilly, kind of stretch of days as we get into next week.
It's that time of year.
It is.
Certainly is. Thank you.
Much more to come here on Morning News Now later this hour. Hiring and firing. A new report giving us a closer look at America's job market, but experts warn it's not the full picture. We'll look at the data and what it tells us about the economy.
But at first, Mexico's first female president pressing charges after being groped. A confrontation that's renewing a debate about violence against women. We'll be right back.
We're back with a rare look inside Gaza, weeks after the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas went into effect. The decimated Palestinian enclave was left in ruins following 2 years of heavy Israeli bombing. Israel, which does not permit journalists to report independently in Gaza, has allowed a group of foreign news organizations in as IDF embeds. The visit was highly controlled and did not offer access to Palestinians or other parts of Gaza. NBC's Matt Bradley was among those given access and has this report.
Everywhere you look, the destruction in Gaza is overwhelming. This is the Shujaiya neighborhood in ruins.
This is my first time visiting and seeing this destruction close up since the ceasefire.
Israel's military took journalists into Gaza on the condition that we not show the military facilities or faces of most military personnel, for what the IDF said are security reasons. The devastation can be seen from space. This was that neighborhood before October 7th, this after 2 years of war.
Just a month ago, this would have been the scene of some of the fiercest, loudest fighting of the war.
Israeli forces withdrew as part of the ceasefire. In the distance, that's Hamas-controlled territory. The IDF says Hamas is still firing on Israeli troops. You can see the shell casings from the IDF firing back.
From here, we've seen Hamas violate the agreement almost on a daily basis. In some days, more than on a daily basis.
Both sides accuse each other of violating the peace deal, which is still holding. They took us to a fortified outpost over Shujaiya, where Hamas said it exhumed the body of Itai Hen, the last American hostage still in Gaza. His remains finally returned.
2 years of hell, 2 years of sleepless nights. We could finally say the sentence we've been waiting for. Itai is back home.
Elsewhere in Gaza, Palestinians living in the middle of the destruction. This man, a father of 9 kids. We said, without this soup kitchen, we wouldn't eat. Hamas handed over the remains of what it said was another slain hostage, also exhumed in Shujaiya. The Israelis say they're working to identify the body.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, in a shocking moment caught on camera, Mexico's first female president, Claudia Sheinbaum, was accosted by a man on the street in the capital. She's now planning to press charges after the incident. You can see it in this image that we're going to pull up on your screen, a man who appears to try to kiss and grope her. The incident is sparking renewed conversations about Mexico's long-standing struggle to curb gender-based violence and harassment. NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber has the details.
A stunning moment on a Mexico City street. The president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, harassed in public by a man who tries to kiss her and then appears to grope her. That encounter now reigniting a national conversation about violence against women. At a press conference Wednesday, Sheinbaum saying she's decided to press charges against the man who, according to Mexico City's mayor, was arrested overnight. Sheinbaum adding, "If I don't report it as a crime, in what condition are all Mexican women left in? If they do this to the president, what will happen to all the young women in our country?" Protesto. The first woman to lead Mexico elected last year, nodding to the challenges women face every day, which some have called a... For many, the danger goes far beyond unwanted touching. On average, 10 women and girls are killed every day in Mexico, the United Nations says, citing government data. Only a fraction of cases are classified as femicide, and only 2% of cases end in a sentence. And it's not just women at risk. The nation saw a wave of murders targeting political candidates heading into its presidential election last June. In just the last 3 years, 7 sitting mayors assassinated. The most recent, a mayor in Michoacan, known for trying to crack down on cartel crime. Just days ago seen here at a public festival for the Day of the Dead. Moments later, he was shot 7 times and pronounced dead himself. His murder sparking protest earlier this week as citizens demanded justice and an end to the violence. Unfortunately, around the corner you can get killed. Things can go really bad, this protester says. We're tired as a people.
Organized crime in Mexico, it's no longer just pivoting around drug trafficking. Increasingly, it's involved in extortion, illegal mining, illegal logging, activities that really require control of local territory. So that means that a lot of groups have had an incentive to actually make themselves part of the political process.
In response to the outrage, Sheinbaum unveiling a new security plan for the state, sending more National Guard troops, federal agents, and creating an office for high-impact crimes like homicide. But Sheinbaum brushing off concerns about her own security after the incident, also calling on states to make it easier for women to report similar assaults. Sheinbaum now tested on whether she can protect a nation where even the president is not immune. Ellison Barber, NBC News.
To the Vatican now, where Pope Leo offered his strongest criticism against President Trump's controversial immigration policies.
NBC News International correspondent Claudia Lavanga joins us with our world news in 60 seconds. Hey, Claudia, good morning.
Savannah, Joe, good morning. Well, that's right. On Wednesday, Pope Leo has called for deep reflection on how migrants are being treated these days in the United States and has called the government's policy of mass deportation controversial. Now, the Pope, who's originally from Chicago, of course, said there were people who've lived in the U.S. for years and years, never causing problems, and are now deeply affected by Trump's policy on migration. He also said that every Christian will ultimately be judged on how they welcome foreigners. Let's go to Japan now, where soldiers have been deployed in the northern mountain region of Akita after a surge of bear attacks there ahead of hibernation season. Japan's Environment Ministry said that since April, at least 12 people were killed and more than 100 injured in bear attacks across Japan. Many of the attacks happened in the Akita region, where troops now will set up box trucks with food, transport local hunters, and dispose of dead bears. And let's end this tour of the world in China, or in space, where on Wednesday, space authorities said a mission to return 3 astronauts from its space station was postponed after suspicions that the spacecraft that was supposed to take them back to Earth was hit by space debris. The astronauts spent 6 months at the Tiangong space station and were expected to return on Thursday. Now experts will determine whether they caused any real damage to the spacecraft. Joe, Samana?
All right, hopefully they get them back soon. Claudia, thank you so much.
Well, coming up on Morning News Now, business owners sounding the alarm on bad online reviews.
I clicked into it and then I saw 39 other reviews, all 1 star. It's my business. Every day matters.
When we come back, a look at who might be behind some of those posts and how you can tell the real from the fake. Stay with us.
We are back with some frustrated restaurant owners in Philadelphia after a flood of one-star reviews were posted about their businesses by fake customers. Johnny Archer from our station in Philly reveals who's behind the online ambush and what it could mean for small businesses across the U.S.
You know, we try really hard to make sure that everybody here has a good experience. And that's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
So when the owner of Mishmish in East Passyunk got a one-star review on Google, he was confused.
And then I clicked into it, and then I saw 39 other reviews, all one star.
Alex Tufik's restaurant wasn't the only one attacked. Reportedly, 8 other restaurants in Philadelphia were hit with fake bad reviews too. Most of the restaurants are independently owned, like Ambra in Southwark and Queen Village, who also got about 30 one-star reviews.
Just to explain, 30
Sure. Oh, one-star reviews. Yeah.
Unusual in one day.
I mean, in general, but also definitely in one day. I mean, it was all within a 2.5-hour, 3-hour period.
The bad reviews all started coming in about 4 days ago. Some of the reviews are posted to different restaurants, but have the same complaints, literally word for word. Many times, those reviews on Google can be the deciding factor whether a new customer comes into a restaurant or not.
So there was 39 reviews that were one-star reviews, and then the 40th review was this account that said, if you want to take down these reviews, contact my WhatsApp number, and I'll take it down for you, and there's a price you have to pay to take it down.
The owners didn't call the WhatsApp number, but we did. The number is from Pakistan, but nobody picked up when we called. We also reached out to Google for comment, but at the time of filing this report, they have not responded. The restaurant owners say they reported the fake post to Google.
You submit these claims and then you're just waiting. And it's my business. Every day matters.
The Federal Trade Commission passed a ruling last year banning fake testimonials and reviews online, and what it essentially does, it allows the agency to seek civil penalties, and any violators could face up to a $50,000 fine per post. But the offenders, if they're overseas, that makes things more complicated. But the restaurant owners that I spoke to just want to see Google put more strict measures in place for people to post those reviews.
Our thanks to Johnny Archer from NBC Philadelphia for that report. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Sherry Herr. She's an assistant professor of marketing at Michigan State University who has done research on fake reviews. Sherry, good morning. Thank you very much for being with us. I mean, this is just such a bummer for these businesses. And we know we have this recent analysis. It's from the Transparency Company. It found that this kind of review fraud ultimately costs consumers roughly $300 billion a year. And that's in just 3 service industries. On your screen, you can see home services, legal, and medical sectors. What does that mean exactly? And where are we seeing these AI-generated reviews show up?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here. Yes, nowadays, because there's a huge incentives for sellers to get fake reviews, and AI essentially lower the cost to generate these seemingly very genuine reviews. So I believe that there are a lot of bad actors in the market will keep generating fake reviews, try to pretend that the products are good.
So last year, we know the Federal Trade Commission made it illegal for businesses to buy or sell fake reviews, but that hasn't completely slowed down review fraud. It's like whack-a-mole. So what are companies doing to try and protect against these fake reviews?
I believe there are 2 ways for firms to actually act on the issues and try to combat fake reviews. In our research, we show that they can work with social platforms to eliminate these avenues to prevent sellers to recruit fake review writers. And also they have multiple policies that can target AI-generated content. I mean, these AI-generated content have these linguistic traits that firms can target and then to flag these fake reviews. And also, there are also behavioral patterns that are a lot harder for fake review writers to fake, such as if you see all these one-star reviews come from one IP address, or the same reviewer write 5-star reviews for a wide variety of products, then this reviewer are likely to write fake reviews, and we can remove these fake reviews and help protect these honest sellers.
This stat surprised me this morning that nearly all consumers actually say that they rely on reviews before buying a product or using a service, maybe like before going to a restaurant. Look at this stat, 98%. How can people spot these fake reviews if you're in this 98% and you check these things out before you buy or shop?
Yes, reviews are very important. Actually buying products from strangers, and how do we trust these products? So we turn to reviews. And in this case, I usually will look at the bad reviews. I will try to see whether the reviews talk about the bad quality issues. Maybe the product is not worth it for the money, or they just talk about different, it's a preference issue. Hey, this product is okay, but it's just not what I preferred. So I try a lot harder in looking into the bad reviews instead of the good reviews.
All right, Sherry Hurd, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up, workplace worries, new job numbers shining a light on the state of America's economy. But the government shutdown is keeping us from getting the whole picture.
Yeah, we're going to look at the available data with our friend Caleb Silver next. You're watching Morning News Now.
Back with a look at our economy and the state of the jobs market.
Yeah, private companies added 42,000 jobs in October. That is according to payrolls company ADP. That was more than expected. Well, the ADP report is one of the few data points available here on the jobs market because the official non-farm payrolls report is unlikely to be released tomorrow because of this government shutdown.
Investopedia's editor-in-chief Caleb Silver is here with us now to discuss. So walk us through just what this report is telling us about private companies right now, because we've been hearing a lot of bad news lately, but this seems relatively positive.
Yeah, I mean, private companies are the ones that are not necessarily tracked by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We're supposed to get that jobs report tomorrow for the month of October. We won't. The BLS tells you right now they are not open for business. But the fact that private companies are still hiring is a good sign. I dug into the report a little bit, and it's mostly the bigger companies that are adding staff, even though there are some other big companies that are cutting staff. Smaller companies, small businesses, they're actually cutting workers. But when you look at the job gains, they're in the places we've seen them for really the past 2 years: education, healthcare, and transportation. But a broader trend of layoffs is starting to creep through the market. We just got another report early this morning from Challenger, which also tracks layoffs. There have been 153,000 layoffs in the month of October. That's up 183% from September, and more than 1 million layoffs year to date.
So this is the ADP report, as we mentioned, just tracking these private companies. What can we infer about the job market in a wider sense, and what are we going to have to wait for the other report that's delayed to figure out?
Yeah, we're going to get 2 months worth of reports if and when the government does open, and we're going to probably hear the same thing. Hiring has slowed. We're not even above what we call the replacement rate in economics, where you need to add about 35,000 jobs a month just to keep up with the amount of people that leave the job force. So we know that's happening. That's a function of immigration laws. That's a function of companies doing more with less, AI productivity, and that's a function of a softening demand among businesses and consumers. So companies are getting by with less. Not a great sign as we head into the end of the year.
You mentioned the cuts we have seen, things like Amazon, UPS, Microsoft. What are the reasons we've seen layoffs and cuts at those places, and what is that telling us about the economy right now?
Yeah, when you think about Amazon, it did so much hiring during the pandemic. A lot of these companies staffed up during the pandemic and right after it because demand was so strong. Well, they're cutting a lot of jobs, mostly what we call white-collar jobs, office jobs. So you're seeing that among Amazon. You're hearing it from UPS. You're hearing it from companies like Target. Even the most successful, most profitable companies are cutting jobs, like Microsoft, like Intel. Why? They want to improve their profit margins because that's what drives their stock price. Remember, these companies are responsible to their shareholders, and they need to keep their margins really strong.
How do we think the information that we do, and maybe also the information that we don't have, impacts the Fed's decisions?
Yeah, well, the Fed's going to meet in some 34 days, 15 hours and 6 minutes. And that's one of the things that they don't have is this monthly jobs data. But they know the labor market is softening. And one thing Powell said or didn't say at the last meeting was no guarantee of another rate cut at the December meeting. No guarantee at all. They have to see what's happening in the labor market. When they look at anecdotal evidence like this, the fact that there are some private job gains, but in general, the trend is that companies are cutting jobs, they're probably going to want to lower rates. Right now, there's about a 65% chance the Fed lowers rates at that December meeting.
If you right now have a job and are maybe curious about whether to look for another one, or you are looking for a job because you're out of work, what's the best advice right now?
I would hold on to that job super tight. Give it a big old hug. Make sure you are good through the end of the year, because it's an uncertain time for the economy. It's an uncertain time for companies. This is not a time to be necessarily job hopping. We know that there are not a lot of job availabilities, and we know that there are not a lot of people who are actually quitting their jobs voluntarily. So this is a time to hang on tight.
Hug your job. Caleb Silver. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Caleb. All right, well, the future is now. Nike is out with a new robotic sneaker. The prototype is called Amplify, and the company says that it does just that, giving your walk, jog, or run a boost. NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo gives us an exclusive first-hand look.
Could this be the next big thing in sneakers? Nike sure hopes so. A company that's been connected with the future of footwear for decades.
Power laces, all right.
Now, this is Nike's new project, Amplify, billed as the world's first powered footwear system.
These shoes are just building on the last decade plus of innovation in super shoes at Nike.
Think of it as a bionic Achilles tendon. It's an upgraded Nike sneaker with a flexible cuff battery that wraps around the calf and a motor powering your every step, all with the goal of making running and even walking a whole lot easier.
We're still in prototype phase.
It's not yet available for customers, but we got to try out a pair.
I think they're snug.
Perfect.
I think we're good.
So we're just going to give you a chance to walk around in those a little bit.
They just feel like some tall boots or something.
But what this is doing is kind of the first step in the get to know you process between you and them.
The big, I guess, change will be when you actually flip that switch.
It takes a bit of walking for the tech to calibrate to your muscles and gait, but after that switch is flipped,
so you can feel it.
Feel it, yeah.
We call that the hug.
You're off.
I'm feeling like Superman, I guess. It's kind of effortless. Yeah, it feels like a muscle, like it moves with me. It's like an extra assist.
And that's the magic.
It's not like a constant force. It feels like at a certain point in my run, then I feel like the boost hits.
The shoes can be worn with or without the robotics, and the system is controlled through an app. Director of Footwear Innovation at Nike, Michael Donahue, says it's been in the works for years now.
Amplify, really simply, it's an idea about helping people move more, whether that's faster or further, just giving people a little more ability.
So you may be wondering, who is this shoe really designed for?
Maybe my dad would still go on a jog with me if he had this. I don't really think this has a place in the competitive world. But if you look at a lot of even elite athlete kind of modalities for recovery, how do you take some of the stress or strain off of a marathoner when they're in their taper phase?
The tech is not without criticism, though. Like, what if it leads to muscle weakness or over-reliance? And that designers don't see it as that different than an e-bike, but they know the human body is much more complicated than wheels.
Amplify is not running for you or walking for you, it's running with you.
Stephen Romo, NBC News.
Huh. Good morning. Thank you for kicking off your Thursday morning with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Pryor. Right now on Morning News Now, more turbulence to come at some of America's busiest airports as the federal government remains in the dark. The FAA announcing major air traffic cutbacks at dozens of locations, looking to soften the blow of widespread staffing shortages just as the holiday travel rush kicks into high gear. So how might this impact your next trip? We've got you covered. That ongoing shutdown only part of President Trump's problems this morning. Top GOP leaders grappling with an election day blue wave, including right here in New York. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani cruising to victory over former Governor Andrew Cuomo and promises to make America's largest city more affordable. All that as Supreme Court justices appear skeptical about whether the commander-in-chief had the legal authority to issue those sweeping global tariffs. Plus, promising medical news this morning. Some popular weight loss drugs like Wegovy and Zepbound could soon be getting cheaper for many patients. The new big pharma deal coming straight from the White House as early as today, and how much folks could actually save on the shots. And later in the hour, it's that time of year again. No, I'm not talking about the holidays. We have got an exclusive first look at the newest additions to the National Toy Hall of Fame. So which of your fabled favorites made the cut this time around? We'll just say I may have had something to do with it. Small role. in voting this year. 12 finalists. We will find out which 3 will be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year.
I'm on board with some of them.
There we go.
Time.
Exactly. There's some good pay. If you like games,
Yeah.
Games are key this year. All right. Let's begin this hour with that major decision by federal officials to slash air traffic at dozens of airports just ahead of the busy holiday travel season.
Yeah, starting tomorrow, 40 of the busiest airports in America could start to see thousands of flights canceled as officials attempt to compensate for staffing shortages connected to the ongoing government shutdown. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles is at Washington's Reagan National Airport with more on what it could mean for the upcoming travel period. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning from an already busy Washington Reagan National Airport. It is among the airports that is expected to be on this list of 40 airports whose traffic volume is going to be reduced as a result of the government shutdown. And even if you're not traveling to or from one of these airports, the interconnected system will likely mean delays and cancellations across the country. And the FAA says the only way to avoid this is for the government shutdown to end. This morning, a dramatic new step affecting travel nationwide. As the government shutdown enters day 37, the FAA cutting back flights, reducing traffic by 10% at 40 high-volume airports.
There'll be additional disruptions. There'll be frustration.
The whole country affected, from busy hubs up and down the East Coast, to the Midwest, to Texas, which has already seen long lines earlier this week, to the West Coast. Travelers now bracing as the holiday rush is just ramping up.
It's going to start getting pretty dicey here pretty quick.
The shutdown has led to air traffic controllers and TSA officers working without pay, many calling in sick, leading to staffing shortages and the equivalent of airport traffic jams.
I'm not aware in my 35-year history in the aviation market where we've had a situation where we're taking these kind of measures.
The airport headache's just one of the many consequences of a record-setting political shutdown. Food banks across the country taxed as federal food assistance benefit recipients struggle to make ends meet.
Just the holidays coming up, we need the extra food and the extra help.
On Pennsylvania Avenue, signs President Trump has had enough, worried his party is taking a political beating in the wake of this week's elections.
The shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans.
Senate Democrats agree and believe that means they should hold firm and push for health care reforms, though there are talks underway.
Can you give us an update on where things stand? And
all I can tell you is that talks continue. They've been productive.
Some Republicans willing to talk about key Democrat sticking points.
I think we should talk. I think we should find a way forward on this.
Now, Secretary Duffy is warning that there is just no way to avoid cancellations and delays as a result of this decision. United Airlines is offering its passengers the opportunity to rebook or to get a refund to avoid traveling during this window of time. But if you can't avoid it, there are a few things you can do. First, try and buy a ticket that is refundable, that would give you some flexibility around your travel schedule. Also, download your airline's app. That'll give you the latest information about any travel alerts if your flight is delayed or canceled. And AAA is recommending that you get to the airport as much as 20 or 30 minutes earlier than you normally would.
All right, Ryan, thank you.
The political fallout is echoing across the country after Democrats' big election night wins this week. Both parties are reacting to the results, and President Trump, as you just heard there, is chiming in too. All as the Supreme Court heard arguments about the legality of the president's tariff policy on global trade partners. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Hake joins us with more on this. Garrett, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Look, you just heard from President Trump saying he thought the ongoing government shutdown affected the election results on Tuesday. But more importantly, he says, so did a lack of focus on the cost of living, affordability. Those are issues the president campaigned on last year. And now voters are losing their patience with high costs and with just getting by. And on Tuesday, at least, they look to Democrats for new solutions.
This morning, President Trump and Republicans grappling with the results of Tuesday's Democratic sweep at the polls after an election night which saw a string of Democratic wins, including the governor's races in Virginia and New Jersey and Zohran Mamdani's victory in the New York City mayoral race. Republican leadership now trying to frame the 34-year-old Democratic socialist as the new face of the Democratic Party.
We have a choice between communism and common sense.
I do think it is alarming that Mamdani is now effectively the leader of the Democrat Party.
Yesterday in New York, Mamdani outlined his man.
New Yorkers are facing twin crises in this month: authoritarian administration and an affordability crisis. And it'll be my job to deliver on both.
While Mr. Trump did partly blame the election night losses on the government shutdown and his absence from the race,
They say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor.
the White House is now also looking to sharpen its focus on cost of living issues. Amid consistent polling showing voter discontent with Mr. Trump's handling of the economy, the president posting, affordability is a Republican stronghold.
I think the biggest problem is Republicans don't talk about it. They don't talk about the word affordability.
While repeatedly claiming prices for goods like gas and groceries are coming down. But home energy costs remain up compared to last year, according to federal data, as are prices for many grocery staples like eggs, bacon, beef, and orange juice. Meanwhile, President Trump's use of tariffs to respond to what the White House has called an economic emergency, sharply questioned by Supreme Court justices hearing arguments on their legality Wednesday. The president asked about the prospect of losing that case.
It would be devastating for our country if we lost that. Devastating.
Democrats believe the president's use of tariffs has been illegal, that he's basically stolen a power that rightfully belongs to Congress. And some Democrats were optimistic yesterday that based on the questions the justices asked, that even some of the Republican-appointed justices agreed. Now, it'll likely be months before the Supreme Court makes any kind of ruling on tariffs, and the White House has already expressed confidence that even if the court rules against them here, they could find another legal justification to keep what has become the president's favorite economic and political tool. Joe?
All right, Garrett, thank you.
Well, not of that tragic UPS cargo plane crash in Louisville, Kentucky. The death toll now stands at 12, including a young child. Authorities say that number could rise. This morning, we're learning more about what may have caused the plane to go down in a ball of flames shortly after it took off. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello covers aviation for us and has the latest from the crash site.
Yeah, good morning. So this plane was 34 years old, the last 20 or so serving as a cargo plane. The NTSB now looking specifically at the maintenance records. This plane had been in maintenance recently. The question is, why did the pylon that holds that engine to the wing, why did it break free? Why was the engine on fire, dooming the 3 crew members on board and at least 9 people on the ground?
This morning, new video shows the moment that UPS Flight 2976 crashed. And now crash investigators are working through the debris field that stretches over a half mile. These pictures showing the scale of the damage.
It's like a scene out of a Terminator movie.
Leaving a scar across the airport grounds and the impacted businesses nearby. A stark reminder of the force of that explosion. Caught on multiple cameras as the cargo jet bound for Honolulu went down shortly after takeoff Tuesday afternoon. The NTSB says all of the videos and photos are vital to piecing together what went wrong. A crew plane's left engine separating from the aircraft just seconds before impact and landing between 2 runways.
Oh my God!
The plane's cockpit voice and flight data recorders, the black boxes, recovered from the smoldering wreckage and now on their way to Washington for analysis.
You described the physical condition, what you saw, how those black boxes actually look.
While the fire may have been intense, it is built to withstand that.
As investigators dig into the data, what's left of the plane on the ground should ultimately reveal what happened.
The wreckage will talk to you. The wreckage will tell you a lot about what happened.
The 3 pilots on board did not survive. UPS's CEO calling it a tragic accident in a note to employees, adding the company is heartbroken but united behind the victims as the NTSB begins its long investigation to find answers for the families left behind.
They deserve the facts. They deserve the truth. They deserve our best. They deserve to know what happened.
Also this morning, we are seeing UPS planes resume flights, resuming. UPS says it is trying to now restart its cargo shipment operations. This, of course, being the biggest UPS hub in North America. It's Worldport here in Louisville. Because of the 48 hours of being down, that will slow down operations. They're trying to catch back up again. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you.
In international news, it has been nearly a month since the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas went into effect. Now Israel, which does not permit foreign journalists to report independently in Gaza, has allowed a group of foreign news organizations access to the Palestinian enclave as IDF embeds. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley was among them. He joins us now from Tel Aviv with more on this. Matt, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. So that's right. We got some rare access to the Gaza Strip yesterday, riding along with the IDF and we saw the front lines of that destruction there firsthand. I can tell you, it really took my breath away. High above these ruins, the most startling sound is silence. This neighborhood was once a big part of nearby Gaza City. 2 years of war have left it nearly lifeless. NBC News was among the journalists the IDF took into Gaza on the condition that we not show the military facilities or the faces of most military personnel, for what the IDF said are security reasons. They took us to a fortified outpost over the area of Shujaiya. It's relatively quiet now. Just a month ago, there was fierce fighting. Here's the evidence. You can see these spent shell casings fired from this position by the Israelis. And this is where Hamas said it exhumed the body of Itai Hen, the last American hostage still in the Gaza Strip. As part of the ceasefire, his remains were handed over to his family this week. From here, you can look past the so-called yellow line. That's where Israeli forces withdrew as part of the ceasefire 3 weeks ago. And in the distance, Hamas-controlled territory.
From here, we've seen Hamas violate the agreement almost on a daily basis, and some days more than on a daily basis.
But Palestinians have accused Israel of repeated violations. The Palestinian Ministry of Health said 241 people have been killed since the ceasefire began. Even if the war has paused, those like Hind Hijazi and her 6 children must suffer to survive. Every day I come to the soup kitchen here to be able to provide food for my family, she says. They say there's a truce, but it's a sham truce because the siege is still in place. And this week, the U.S. is working on a resolution to present to the United Nations Security Council that would authorize a so-called international stabilization force as outlined by that ceasefire deal. Now, if the council approves it, it could make a major step toward a more permanent treaty in Gaza. Guys?
All right, Matt, thank you.
Well, back here in the U.S., the multi-million-dollar civil case seeking damages for the teacher whose 6-year-old student shot her in the classroom is now in the hands of the jury.
Both sides delivered closing arguments yesterday. Jurors are expected to continue deliberating in a Virginia courthouse this morning. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has been following this one for us and is here with more. Steph, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Jury deliberations will start again first thing this morning. They are deciding whether the assistant principal is responsible for not taking action after repeated warnings that a first grader had a gun. This is a rare case of an administrator being taken to court over a school shooting, potentially setting new legal precedent. This morning, jurors deciding whether to award millions in damages to the former teacher who was shot by her 6-year-old student after attorneys battled in closing arguments over who was to blame for that violent day in 2023.
What more do you need to act when a gun changes everything?
Abigail Werner suing Rich Neck Elementary School's former assistant principal Ebony Parker for $40 million, alleging she ignored multiple warnings the student had a gun. The week-long trial in Virginia's civil court became emotional at times, like when Werner took the stand to recount the moment after the student fired a gun at her, the bullet piercing her hand before lodging in her chest.
I thought I was dying. I thought I had died.
Body camera video and security footage played in court showing the chaos and fear in the shooting's aftermath. During the trials, Werner's fellow teachers also testified several students told them the boy might have a gun. They reported it to Dr. Parker, they say, but she did not search him.
You can't stick your head in the sand and then come into court and say, I didn't have the information when it was your job to find it.
Parker's attorney arguing no one could have predicted a first grader would have a gun.
It was a tragedy that until that day was unprecedented. It was unthinkable, and it was unforeseeable.
Instead, she turned the blame back on Werner herself.
There are things she did not do. She did not seek classroom coverage to personally discuss any of this with Dr. Ebony Parker. No visit, no call, no email.
Werner's lawyer pleading with the jury to fight for his client, who testified she continues to suffer physical challenges and lasting emotional scars from the shooting.
What number do you arrive at for somebody who didn't want this and it's been inserted into her life like a bullet fragment against her spine?
Now it's up to the jury to decide if Ebony Parker is liable and then how much money she will have to pay her former first grade teacher. Later this month, Parker will face a criminal trial, 8 charges of felony child neglect tied to the shooting. We reached out to Parker and her attorney, but they've not gotten back to us for comment, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For more on this, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Danny, always great to have you with us. So first, what just stood out to you about how each side wrapped up the trial in closing arguments yesterday?
This is a civil case, so in a sense, the plaintiff has the advantage. She only has to prove her case to a preponderance of the evidence, which is 51%, essentially. It's not like the beyond a reasonable doubt standard of the criminal justice system. So she has the advantage there. She also has the advantage of being incredibly sympathetic. She's a teacher. She was doing her job. And here's where the defense has a bit of a problem. You saw the attorney saying this was unforeseeable. It's a difficult argument to make when there's so much evidence of notice in the record. And by notice, I mean alerts that there may be a firearm on the premises. Now, sure, the defendant says, the backpack was searched and there was no firearm. We did our job, essentially. But that's a really difficult argument to make to a jury when there was actual warnings. It's not as if they were just conducting random searches of backpacks and there was no firearm. Some people were saying there was a firearm. So to call it unforeseeable, the defense might have lost a few jurors there, but they're doing the best they can with some bad facts.
Danny, if Parker is found liable, what are the factors that go into figuring out how much money would be rewarded?
Sure. So this is not a science. It's more of an art. When juries get together, these are lay people. And while we lawyers have general ideas of what the value is of, say, a torn ACL or a rotator cuff or something like that, the reality is juries get in that room and they have to assign a dollar amount to the pain and suffering and the injuries that somebody has. And they may disagree on that. In a case like this, where you have some really arguably egregious conduct, and that's what they're arguing, recklessness, essentially gross negligence beyond mere negligence, then you might see jurors really stick it to the defense with a verdict in the stratosphere. And there's always the fear, depending on the jurisdiction, that on appeal that might get cut down a little bit. But generally speaking, look for the plaintiff to get a pretty good award here.
Danny, we heard in Steph's piece that this case could end up really sort of setting a precedent if a school official is found liable for a shooting of this kind. That might remind people how we've seen that same type of thing happen with parents. Potentially, what kind of impact could this have?
You're exactly right, Savannah. Your question about including the parents, we've seen that in criminal cases. And look, the law evolves over time, especially the common law, the law that is made through court trials and appeals in the courthouse rather than at the legislature. And this is one of those areas I think we're seeing a trend. We're seeing a change in real time. And that change is this. 10 years ago, you would have only held responsible the person who had the firearm or the person who committed the intentional act. But when it comes to school shootings, and this is just my observation, both on the criminal and civil side, the United States as a society is prepared to say no more. We're going to hold everybody we can possibly hold responsible to try and put a stop to this, even if it conflicts with our traditional ideas of intent and responsibility for the conduct of others.
Danny, as we've discussed, Parker's also facing these 8 felony counts on of child neglect in a separate criminal case you mentioned. The standard there is reasonable doubt. It's much higher. But how could a verdict in this civil case, could it have any influence or set the tone for the criminal trial?
Very little. And in fact, normally it's the reverse. Normally, civil attorneys will wait until the outcome of a criminal case because that standard is so much higher that a civil attorney can just cherry pick the evidence in a criminal case and use it. Presumably, they already have that and used all that evidence anyway. But the practical reality is that a civil judgment will not even be before the jury in the criminal case. That will likely be kept out completely. But of course, it's one of those things where how are you going to seat a jury who hasn't heard about this in some sense? And even if they can put it aside and decide the criminal case, it might be somewhere in the back of their mind.
All right. Danny Savalos, thank you very much. Well, in Florida, rescue crews are still on the scene of a massive house fire at a property registered to the head coach of the Miami Heat, Eric Spoelstra. Miami-Dade Fire Rescue said they were called to the single-family residence shortly after 4:30 a.m. this morning. They found 2 structures, quote, fully involved in the fire, which elevated it to a second alarm. No injuries have been reported so far, and the cause of the fire is still under investigation.
On the medical front, a new deal could come later today that would make popular weight loss drugs more affordable for some Americans.
The White House is in discussions with the makers of Zepbound and Wegovy to lower prices on those medications, which can cost more than $1,000 a month.
NBC News consumer investigative correspondent, News Now anchor Vicki Wynn joins us now with the details. Good to have you with us. So what, first of all, could a deal even look like here?
Okay, so the official White House announcement hasn't come out yet, Joe, but we're expecting it very soon. And this deal would involve lowering the prices on popular weight loss medications in exchange for limited Medicare coverage. The president himself just said last month he's close to reaching a deal. He said, quote, instead of $1,300, you'll be paying about $150. That's a significant discount.
No kidding.
Two sources familiar with this plan say he's talking about Zepbound, which is made by Eli Lilly, and Wegovy, which is made by Novo Nordisk. Those are game-changing GLP-1 weight loss drugs. We're not talking about Ozempic or Mounjaro. Those are diabetes drugs with a side effect of weight loss.
Okay.
But when you think about the CDC saying more than 100 million Americans have obesity in this country, U.S. adults, this could have enormous impact.
Wow, it really could. And what are the prices now? I know we heard what the president said there, but do we know exactly what this the delta between what it is and what it will be?
Yeah, it's basically an 80 to 90% discount.
Wow.
The list price for these two drugs currently $1,300 a month. Imagine going down to $150. Now, if you have insurance, it's about $30 a month. But the problem is a lot of people don't have insurance, and this isn't something that's covered by Medicare right now for weight loss. It is covered when it comes to things like heart disease or helping you with sleep apnea, but that's why everybody's eyes are on Medicare and what this would mean for them. By the way, I should mention the companies themselves did launch lower cost direct to consumer plans in the range of $350 to $500, but this is still per month for these medications, still much higher than $150 per month, which is what the Trump administration is proposing.
Let's talk about who would benefit from this. Is it just folks who are on Medicare, or would anyone else?
So that's the gray area, Joe. That's why we're watching this very closely. What we do know is in recent months, the Trump administration has negotiated deals with AstraZeneca and Pfizer in exchange for lower prices for consumers who will buy directly. They will forgo their insurance and pay medications. Another part of that deal, though, is those medicines would be required to appear on Trump RX. That is the government website that is set to launch by next year. Right now, drugs on there include treatments for arthritis or migraines. The hope is that you're going to get weight loss drugs on there, too, because that would really level the playing field for so many people who need access to these medications. It's all in flux, though. So these are the details we have confirmed so far. A lot of it could change. And so that's why we're watching it very, very closely.
Wow. Vicki, thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, let's get you weather now. The rain is not letting up in the Pacific Northwest. We've got increasing chances now of flooding, and now in some areas, snow is even expected to be added into that mix. For more details, we've got to look at your morning news now weather.
Angie Lassman joined us with a little bit of everything, I guess.
Indeed, guys. It's that part of the year where we've got the snow, we've got the rain, of course, and we've got a mixed bag of temperatures. So let's get you some details. We'll start out west. As you just mentioned, we've got some of that rain that we're already seeing kind of stay with us into the forecast for the next couple of days across this region. Some showers stretching across the Pacific Northwest as we gear up for kind of a multitude of things going on. We've got an atmospheric river event that, of course, has taken shape over the past couple of days, and another system is expected to make its way closer to shore here as we get through basically the evening hours tonight. So that means additional rain, additional snowfall. We'll see the windy conditions and likely seeing some isolated flooding across this region through the day today. By tomorrow, much of this is over parts of the Rockies, those northern Rockies, dealing with a bit of snow. We'll still see some rain mixed in for parts of the plains, but otherwise we keep that same kind of forecast going for our friends in the Pacific Northwest. Meanwhile, on the other coast for the Northeast, we've got some really windy conditions. If you were out late last night across this region or even into the overnight hours, you likely heard those winds howling. We've still got elevated wind speeds over 30 miles per hour, especially closer to the coast. Boston, East Hampton, Hartford, New York, all expected to see gusts over 30 miles per hour this morning. So we already saw some isolated power outages across this region because of that yesterday into the evening and overnight hours, and we'll likely see more of that today. I don't think it'll be widespread. Again, isolated, but still of note, and potentially dealing with some travel delays as well. Air travel, of course, has difficulty when you see those elevated winds, so I would watch that if you're headed to any of the airports across the Northeast today. Meanwhile, as we look ahead to tomorrow, we've got this next storm system that's going to kind of slide from the Great Lakes through the Appalachians. That's where it brings that additional rainfall. We'll also see kind of a sliver of the Tennessee Valley for tomorrow in that chance for some severe weather, so some stronger storms. So you'll want to have a way to get alerts here if you live across that region. Otherwise, what gets your attention attention across the middle of the country, the warmth. We've got that warm air being ushered in from the Gulf of Mexico. You see this strong area of high pressure sitting right along the East Coast. That keeps skies really clear, but it's also dragging in this warm air and leaving us with temperatures running way above normal for this time of year. So 75 in Little Rock today, 64 in Omaha, mid-60s for St. Louis. Much of the East sees these warm temperatures as we get into tomorrow, too. Rounding out our work week in Atlanta at 75 degrees. It is November, and it is 71 degrees in Charleston tomorrow, and even Chicago, more than 10 degrees above normal with a high into the low 60s. By the time we get into Saturday, we enjoy the warmth across parts of the Northeast. It's 60s, 70s across the board from the mid-Atlantic up into the Northeast. But then we start to see the chilly air kind of settling in for parts of the northern tier of this region. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to see this kind of area developing across the Great Lakes. This is going to be a system that we watch for some rain, some snow, but we're also going to see kind of really a whole lot of cold air being dragged down from the Arctic, and that means that temperatures sure are going to drop. We've got a big difference in our temperatures if you look ahead to Sunday. Region. It's just 30s for the high in Chicago, Minneapolis, and then we see parts of the Southeast. Guys, get in on this. We could be dealing with 50s, 60s, even some early morning temperatures close to freezing in some of those southern states. So much to watch, breaking out the extra layers here as we get into next week, but not quite yet for parts of the middle of the country today.
All right. You get to use all the colors on the map.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
You got it.
Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including the big American city that's betting even bigger on not only AI, but high-tech robots, too. Our Brian Chung puts them to the test a little later.
First, after the break, why dozens of Miss Universe contestants walked out of a pre-pageant event in solidarity with Miss Mexico. That's next. Stay with us.
We are back with details on a live stream video from a Miss Universe event that is going viral. Dozens of contestants walked out of a pre-pageant ceremony on Tuesday after an official from host nation Thailand insulted Miss Mexico. In a tense confrontation, the official publicly berated the contestant over promotional content.
After Miss Mexico left the room, several women from other countries followed. That's despite threats of disqualification from the competition. The official later apologized, saying he was misunderstood. NBC News International correspondent Molly Hunter has the details from London. Molly, good morning.
Joe, Savannah, good morning. And not just a couple of other women. This was a pretty crazy scene. The host publicly calling out Miss Mexico, and then you hear the other contestants, booing, really coming to her defense, and then following Miss Mexico out of the room. Take a look.
This morning, controversy hitting one of the most high-profile pageants in the world. This year's Miss Universe hosted in Bangkok a show of beauty and grace.
Good evening from Thailand.
But in a live-streamed pre-pageant event, the host, Nawat Itzaragrisal, singles out Miss Mexico.
Mexico, where are you?
Berating her for not posting promotional materials about Thailand and criticizing the Mexico pageant director, too.
It's a damage for the queen.
25-year-old Fatima Bosch Fernandez stands and tries to respond.
No, not about you. Not about you.
And he shuts her down.
I didn't give you opportunity to talk. Security.
You can hear the protest from the other contestants. Then, in solidarity, a mass exodus, the live stream still running.
Stop.
A teary-eyed Miss Mexico immediately after.
I truly love Thailand, but what just your director did is not respectful. He called me dumb.
The host said he was misunderstood, offering a rambling apology.
If anyone not comfortable, I do apologize.
But the backlash was immediate. The Miss Universe organization condemned Mr. Nawat's behavior as malicious. In a video statement, the organization's president said Mr. Nawat had forgotten the true meaning of what it means to be a genuine host. And 2024 Miss Universe, who joined the walkout, expressed her support for Miss Mexico.
This is about the women's rights.
Danny Walker, former Miss Montana, now a pageant commentator, said it was out of line.
This shouldn't have happened at a very exciting moment for the ladies right before the official kind of kickoff and opening ceremony.
And this morning, Miss Mexico's still planning to compete.
No tengo miedo.
She says, I am here to raise my voice. I'm not afraid.
Now, the host definitely has denied that he called Miss Mexico dumb or a dummy, but the organization definitely trying to put some distance in between them and the host. They are saying his role going forward in the competition will be limited as much as possible or eliminated altogether. Of course, they don't want to distract at all from the competition over the next couple of weeks. And you guys, the next Miss Universe 2025 will be crowned on November 21st. Joe, Savannah.
All right, Molly, thank you so much. Coming up, the new push right here in America for a different kind of energy source.
When we come back, we'll introduce you to the LA company that's turning to the Pacific Ocean to ride a wave of innovation, but can it eventually make a bigger splash nationwide? This is Morning News Now. We're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning. We're going to start with a Democratic lawmaker in a battleground district announcing he's stepping down.
Let's bring in NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor for the latest. Sahil, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. We begin today in politics with centrist Democratic Congressman Jared Golden unexpectedly announcing he won't run for re-election in 2026 after 4 terms of representing a district in Maine that President Trump won by 9 points in 2024. Writing in his hometown Bangor Daily News, the 43-year-old Golden said he doesn't fear losing, but he now dreads the prospect of winning. Quote, simply put, what I could accomplish in this increasingly unproductive Congress pales in comparison to what I could do in that time as a husband, a father, and a son, end quote. Golden also said he considered his 2 daughters and the increased threats of political violence and how it might affect them in a decision that marks a searing indictment of Congress. And in a reversal, President Trump said he's nominating the billionaire entrepreneur Jared Isaacman to lead NASA, citing his passion for space and his astronaut experience. This comes after the president previously considered Isaacman, then pulled his name from consideration back in May. In a statement posted on social media, Isaacman thanked Trump, said he's overwhelmed with support from the space-loving community, and he promised to do everything he can to live up to their expectations. If confirmed, Isaacman would take the role from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who has been doing double duty running NASA on an interim basis since July. And here in Washington, a federal jury has begun deliberating a verdict in the case of Sean Dunn, better known here as Sandwich Guy, on a misdemeanor charge for tossing a Subway sandwich at a Border Patrol officer who was policing the busy U Street area on orders from President Trump. Dunn's attorney questioned the officer's testimony after he said the sandwich exploded all over his chest and that he could smell the onions and even the mustard. The attorney added that the officer possessed mementos of the event, suggesting he actually found it funny, and that his bulletproof vest was sufficient to keep him safe from a sandwich. And that is where we begin today in politics, guys.
Detailed descriptions there, Sahil. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Mustard, you know.
Yeah. You smell the mustard. All right. You might have heard about solar power and wind power, but what about wave power? When it comes to renewable energy, companies in the U.S. have largely avoided trying to harness the ocean because of challenges like high costs and complicated machinery.
But one company in L.A. is diving in. NBC News Now anchor Gotti Schwartz explains.
Within the bustling waterways of the Port of Los Angeles, there's a clean energy pilot program that's making a splash. This is Eco Wave Power.
So here we can see the Eco Wave Power floaters. When they go into the water, they start generating clean electricity.
And it turns out this is actually the country's first ever onshore wave power site. A partnership with a company called Alta Sea and Shell Marine Renewable Energy.
Wave energy is kind of the new kid in the block of renewable energy, so most governments didn't come up with policy yet.
But in a day and age where green power sources like wind and massive solar farms are taking hits with current administration cuts, EcoWave is hoping it might be time to give blue energy a try.
This is all energy generation, no batteries, because no batteries are required. There's no day or night on or off waiting for wind or no wind, right?
Exactly.
And the technology is already generating wave power at stations around the world.
Our power station in Israel is the first time in history that wave energy is connected to the national electrical grid.
It works like this. Waves make these floaters bob up and down in the water, which pushes these hydraulic cylinders back and forth, building up pressure in accumulators, which then start powering generators.
And these would all go on a break wall?
Exactly. The Port of LA is kind of our dream breakwater for a commercial project. It's sufficient for up to 60 megawatts of power, which is around 60,000 households, which can be a game changer for renewable energy production for the port.
This station, a proof of concept with scalable potential. In a study with Shell, EcoWave Power ID'd 77 initial U.S. sites as ready-to-go locations with maximum wave wattage.
It does seem like it's somewhat of a no-brainer when you've got waves that are happening. Like, why don't we already have this?
Wave energy haven't commercialized so far because of the complexity of it, like that it's too expensive, that it's breaking down, how to operate it, how to maintain it. So we want to keep it simple and easy.
I mean, this one has the line already set, the infrastructure already set.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got the Port of LA right here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the perfect location.
Gotti Schwartz, NBC News.
Pretty cool. Looks cool, too. Coming up, we're talking about AI in the classroom.
Some students, even some teachers, say it is a big help in their day-to-day schedules, but others say they're actually growing frustrated with just how much their peers are relying on the tech. We're going to break down both sides of the argument next. We're back with a hot topic in many schools across the U.S. It's the debate over artificial intelligence and if it should be used in classrooms. Students can use it to personalize their learning, while some teachers use it to enhance their lessons. But some students say their peers are relying on AI too much, and that's not setting them up for success. NBC News correspondent Rahima Ellis went to one high school in New Jersey where the tech is getting mixed reviews.
Artificial intelligence is making its way into every aspect of life, from work, entertainment, even school. At Princeton High in New Jersey, it's a hot topic of discussion.
There's like this fear of like a false positive or like someone flagging your work as AI.
At this school, all students have some access to artificial intelligence.
Sometimes AI can tell you what you want to hear, not necessarily what is true.
I think it can be very positive for certain things, but also very negative for others.
It's not helpful when students just use it to directly cheat.
I'm really excited.
These students say there are positives.
Are you saying you use AI like as a study buddy?
Yes, exactly. I can refine my questions with its help to find exactly what I'm looking for.
But also negatives.
I don't think it's great when we're given an essay, that student uses AI for the whole essay. I don't. See, that's not fair. That's not right.
A recent Pew Research survey found 26% of teenagers said they use ChatGPT for schoolwork, double the rate in 2023. Now, more programs are being used to catch students who cheat on their schoolwork, but that's causing more anxiety. AI detection tools mistook human writing for AI writing 6.8% of the time. Students now complaining they're under more pressure to prove they didn't cheat.
Teachers sometimes make them rewrite it in front of their eyes. It's such a gray area.
Last year, the Princeton public school system banned ChatGPT and established guidelines on how to use other generative AI tools to maximize benefits over drawbacks.
Benefits to using AI.
English teacher Douglas Lewandowski says his solution is to never use AI, and he encourages his students to do the same.
AI isn't beneficial in education, at least not yet.
The American Federation of Teachers joined forces with several tech companies, spending $23 million to train teachers like these in New York City on best AI practices for schools.
It's a thought partner in our journey of educating students and ensuring that also students are aware that it's not a replacement of their learning.
The critical question now facing students, when can they use AI and how do they use it?
Are you all for AI?
I'm all for AI being used with restrictions so that students can get the critical thinking skills that they need to succeed in life.
I don't think we're at a point in AI to determine whether it's fair, unfair, good, or bad. It's both, all at the same time.
Rahima Ellis, NBC News.
Well, from fast food restaurants to city streets, robots are quickly becoming a part of our everyday lives. Thanks to AI, we're not far from a world where robots play a role in a lot of what we do. So NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung explains how one city is leading the charge.
There are the good robots.
Pleasure to meet you.
And then there are the bad ones.
Join them in extinction!
Even the friendly ones sometimes take a little warming up to.
KITT for easy reference. A kit if you prefer.
No, I don't prefer, and what's more, I don't intend to drive around in a car that talks back to me.
But in Boston, Massachusetts, signs that humans and robots can exist peacefully. From big to small, robots of all shapes and sizes lined up with their human creators for all to see. Yep, a robot parade marching down Boston's Seaport District. Walking off-leash and working the crowd, too. The pomp and circumstance, the kickoff of a full-on robot block party, with VIPs like Boston Mayor Michelle Wu in attendance.
Boston has always been a hotbed of innovation and being impatient to make sure that we're not settling for the status quo.
No surprise, given that the area is home to more than 500 robotics companies, fed by top talent from world-class universities like MIT and Harvard. Mass robotics is the glue that holds the community together, helping startups find the resources to develop and test the next generation of robots. Making this block party something of a family gathering for Mass Robotics' Joyce Sidopoulos.
It's almost like a reunion every year now, too. Like, oh, I haven't seen you since last year. What's your company up to now? Or, what's the newest thing you're working on?
From startups like Colin Taylor's Revolut Robotics.
This is the hybrid mobility robot, so it switches between driving and flying to go places other robots cannot.
To billion-dollar ventures like Boston Dynamics.
It can grasp things, it can pick things up.
With the biggest oohs and ahs coming from the youngest in the crowd.
Do you like robots?
Yeah, I want to bring it home.
You want to bring it home?
I'll bring Oni.
What does Dad think about bringing this home?
Yeah, I love one. Let's do it.
We met the next generation of robotics makers, too. Teens making robots that can score and swim, too.
It took only 1 week to make this?
Yeah, it was not that difficult to make this.
Joseph Kasongo, a senior at Quincy Upper High School, is himself a STEM convert, having immigrated from the Democratic Republic of the Congo and thinking of robotics as an impossible path.
One thing that's really scary is we didn't have a lot of money in order to get into it, and it kind of feel like robotics is a field that's only made for people who have a lot of money already.
People buy all those materials
and It was kind of scary for me because I feel like I wasn't made for this. I'm not smart enough to do this kind of thing yet. I didn't get the right education to do this. But that's just not really the case. Anybody, especially nowadays, can get into robotics. But the biggest thing you have to do is you have to find people like Mass Robotics.
Mass Robotics saying that's the goal, to make robotics accessible and less scary, too.
We want the public to not be afraid of robots. We want them to play with them and understand that they're really augmenting what we can do. They're going to make life better.
Kids telling us they're not afraid at all.
Robots are really cool, and I don't think they're that dangerous.
To be safe, we wanted to triple check that humans are still on top.
Okay, ready? All right, let's see. Who are you guys betting on? 4? Whoa! I think I win.
So fact check, humans still hold the keys to the future, which is worth a block party celebration. Brian Chung, NBC News.
Good moves there.
I know. Who knew, Brian? Coming up, it's an annual reveal that might seem like fun and games, and it is, but it's also much more than that.
Yeah, when Morning News Now returns, we're going to have an exclusive first look at the fabled favorites that'll have their names etched into the hallowed halls of the National Toy Hall of Fame. And yes, I may have something to do with it. Stick around. That is up next.
We're back with an exclusive first look at the newest additions to the National Toy Hall of Fame. Every year, the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, inducts new honorees to this prestigious hall.
These are the goats of the toy world, icons that have been played and loved for generations. There were 12 finalists selected this year. A selection advisory committee then voted on the finalists to pick this year's 3 inductees.
Wait, that was
As you
you
see,
on there, right?
That's me there last year at the museum. Full disclosure, I've been on this committee for years, including this year, which means, yes, I did have 1 vote.
Here to officially reveal the 2025 inductees is Christopher Ben. She's the chief curator at the National Museum of Play. Christopher, good morning. So these are the 12 finalists we're gonna show you right now for this year. They range from specific products like Tickle Me Elmo to, as we've discussed prior, just snow, like regular old snow that comes from the sky. How do you come up with this initial list and then figure out the finalists?
Every year, members of the public send us nominations. In fact, your viewers can start
nominating toys for 2026 right now. We had more than 2,100 nominations for 311 toys, and we boil those down to a group of 12 that best exemplify what makes a classic toy.
So, Christopher, let's walk through the 3 inductees this year, 2 of which are well-known games. So take us through them.
All right. So the oldest of these 3 inductees is the game Battleship. It's been around for more than a century, and we know it best from its 1967 version that came from Milton Bradley.
That's a good one right there. I remember when I was growing up, I had the talking one that was electronic, and it was, you sunk my battleship. All right.
That one, that very much seems like it should be in there to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's an
what
icon.
else?
All right. And there's another game, too, that's sort of a different end of the spectrum when it comes to games.
That's right. If Battleship is all about strategy, Trivial Pursuit, which revolutionized the world of games for grown-ups, especially when it came out in the early 80s, was a sensation, and like Battleship has gone on to sell more than 100 million copies.
Wow. All right, and then the third one?
The third one is shall we say, a little squishier than those hard products. It is Slime. In all of its iterations, Slime came out from Mattel in 1976. It has oozed its way into the hearts of many households, grown-ups and kids alike. Whether you buy one or whether you make your homemade version, there are so many varieties and so much tactile fun.
I have a feeling the folks at Nickelodeon are thrilled with that selection right there, since they made an entire industry out of slime.
So true. That's it's like had such a moment. Also, they're like the TikToks of people telling you how to make your own, TikTok businesses about slime. It's
DIY slime.
Yeah. Why do you think it is that it's important to celebrate toys in this way and take a moment and have a Hall of Fame all about it?
Okay, toys are so integral to who we all are. And the nature of play is such that I hear guests from 8 years old to 88 years old coming through the Strong Museum. Every day I hear people saying, I had one of those. And to recognize that you're part of the history of play and popular culture is something that doesn't happen to most of us every day. And play shapes who we become. And I hope we play all of our lives, not just during childhood. And that's something that Trivial Pursuit helped tell people in the 1980s, that you can be a grown-up, you can have fun, you can play games, and we have kept on doing that ever since.
I remember I was kind of jealous of the grown-ups who got to play Trivial Pursuit when I was a kid because I thought it was so hard. So I will say here, so I got 3 votes this year, and 2 of the 3 are ones I picked. I voted for Trivial Pursuit this year. I also voted for Battleship this year. I didn't vote for Slime, Christopher. Instead, I voted for Snow, which was kind of a controversial pick, but I'm from Minnesota, and snow was probably the toy I played with most growing up, whether it was snowball fights or making a snowman or making a snow fort or whatever. Christopher, snow didn't make it this year, right?
I already had people this morning, not knowing who the results would be, saying, you know, if snow doesn't get in, it's next year for snow. So, Joe, you've got other fans in the same boat.
Good. Christopher Bench, good to have you with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Reminder, sand is in there, right?
Sand is in there.
Yeah, there
Stick.
you go. Yeah.
A lot of things. Let's go do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us. The news continues, though, right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.